Today, it's possible that we are now part of Atari and/or Infogrames and/or something else. ChillPoint. Also,
Somebody came in.
somebody turned on the light.
That ruins our entire lighting setup.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's Kathleen.
She's looking for her stuff. It's fine.
Well,
You can't see that, but that's something that's happening.
You say it's fine. You're not sitting on this side of the stage.
Yes. Yeah, we're all Atari today.
Oh,
No.
Jesus. Don't pin that on me.
Yeah, no.
I love. Yeah, we'll get into it, but the Atari Infogrames process is very silly. Anyway, hey everybody, welcome to ChillPoint show where we talk about the week's video game news as well as the episode of Checkpoint that went up and anything else that happens to come up in conversation.
See, I can let Paul get through it.
Yeah, me too.
But after last week's episode, Beach came home and he was like, I noticed that we didn't get distracted. I think that was your fault. And like, it's harder to distract Paul away when it's just two of you.
Yeah.
And you don't have a second person
'Cause when
to get involved.
When I've been here too, or when I've been gone too, you guys have probably got to start right away.
Usually,
It has
except
more
for
to,
the one time maybe I put some effort into it. It's harder.
It has more to do with the power couple, I think. Really,
Yeah.
kind of taking things.
I
off
think
the
yeah, I
rails.
think we're learning that it's not one or the other. It's the
No,
combination.
it's a combination.
Yeah.
You need a partner in crime.
I'm not allowed to be
why
on
it's
Tucker
partners
Taylor
in
anymore
crime.
either.
Let's get into it now. As we talked about in the after show, and lots of people were very positive about in the comments. We had a couple extra stories this week. Not so we had a couple of extra writers too. Cameron and Nelson helped out on stories. I will say, just to temper your expectations, the intention is not that they are going to be writing stories that are then so we can have more stories. The general intention is that they're going to be writing stories and then, they'll all, amongst all of the writers, end up with, the normal number of stories.
It gives us a little bit more variety. Especially people like Cameron who know a lot more about 40K than maybe the rest of us. Or it gives, because a lot of these stories get written the day before. If you are on AFK that night, you might not have time to write a story.
Exactly.
That's more the purpose.
There's also,
you might get 6 stories one week out of it, or you might not. But
So, but I just wanted to say the intention is not that Checkpoint is going to be longer going forward because we have more writers.
Yeah. But we're talking to the wrong people anyway, because the people who watch ChillPoint definitely don't watch Checkpoint. And the people who watch Checkpoint definitely don't watch ChillPoint. So they're not going to know all this extra valuable, cool information we're giving them.
Cameron and Nelson did a great job for Cameron's Warhammer 40K story. He was actually working on it for last week. And he is like, I want to make sure I get, some of this stuff right. The time crunch for writing
That story
can be a little bit tight.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially, because especially if you're writing it, Thursday morning, I have to do graphics for it and blah, blah, blah. So, so he's like, is it okay if we, if I do this for next week? And it's like, I'm assuming that the controversy won't have cooled down much in the week. It's still a thing that will be happening. I doubt. The only thing that could have happened, I guess, is if Games Workshop had backpedaled on the whole thing, which then again would have been controversy into itself.
Or maybe that 1 week, that would have been the one time where everybody in a fandom on the internet agreed.
They're all like, yeah, you know what? This was a something.
Yeah, like just somehow.
Yeah, we were being unreasonable.
Everyone lived happily ever after, fairy tale ending story thing happened. I know that's very unusual, but one day, the possibility has to be there that one day it might happen. It's just going to be in like the apocalypse when the internet doesn't exist anymore or something.
Right.
I'd probably characterize us adding more writers to the writing team as that it's like this is going to be an ongoing exercise, and other writers, like other people who work here, maybe even guests from outside, who knows? We have no idea. But if as other people are like, man, I'd like to do more writing, I'd like to get better at writing, that kind of thing. It's like, this is an opportunity. You can treat it like an exercise. You can treat it as a means to do that. And as if people become regular contributors, then obviously that, will alter the credits and whatnot to be like, these are the people who have become regular contributors. Like what happened with me, right? As I started making contributions to doing more writing or stuffing or starting to host, it's like, get added to the credits at that point. So for now, it is a more loose arrangement to allow people to give this a shot to see if they actually like doing it and if they want to be a part of the process. And we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, let's get on into the stories here, starting with the Atari Infogrames thing. And this is the sort of nugget of this story. The central piece of the story is that Atari is relaunching Infogrames as a brand to be a place for they're acquiring older popular games.
Oh, I see.
Is sort of what they want to be.
I always looked forward to seeing the Infogrames logo show up on games when I was looking at them, because I always knew that it meant that I was about to play something appealing yet weirdly also unappealing.
I've never heard of them before.
They're. I mean, the weird thing is that Atari. So for in the last couple of years, certainly Atari has been primarily concerned with licensing and producing the old games.
Yes.
Making the Atari new Atari set-top boxes and Atari 50 collections and this kind of stuff.
Very busy being like, how can we coast on our cachet that only people my age would give a shit about? Oh, I know what I'll do is I'll purchase a publisher from Europe that only people my age who speak a different language give a shit about.
Well,
I'm being very unfair here, but it's like anyway.
Also, that's because and the weird thing is so it's like Infogrames is going to be they're going to be publishing sort of older games, but not so old that they're Atari games, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Existing more in probably like the 8-bit to 16-bit era, that kind of idea.
I mean, to be fair, if we didn't do news about Atari owning like a weird hotel building and stuff, I'm not sure I'd really recognize Atari either.
I do think it's interesting that what they're doing, because...
So Totally Reliable Delivery Service is the first game that they have acquired, which, to be honest, is not actually that old a game.
It is not.
We did it on CTS a few times.
What I think is unusual is that, okay, a car analogy, and I didn't want to do this, but here comes a car analogy.
What is with you and
right?
those?
Yeah.
You've already done 3 to me this week.
So this would be like if Chrysler, who's owned by Stellantis right now, if Chrysler was like, we're gonna start making a classic car thing, and what we're gonna do is revive Plymouth. Everyone loves Plymouth, right? And it's like, do they? Or like GM saying, hey, we're gonna revive some older versions. We're gonna bring back the Cutlass Sierra, and therefore we're gonna revive Oldsmobile just to handle all these old cars, old car marks for whatever reason. This is what this feels like to me. Is it's like you didn't need to revive an old publishing label to say we're gonna acquire a game and then publish it under this old publishing label, because the only reason to use an old name is to try to spruce up the cachet of the thing, right? It's to
Right,
say,
but
like,
these aren't games that were Infogrames games to begin with. Yeah.
And it's like, so what are you doing by saying, hey, we're going to bring back Infogrames, and the first thing we're going to do is acquire some games that Infogrames never published in the first place? What would actually what shine are you giving to the game by giving it this publishing label? I don't know. What it does do is it lets you write a press release.
And of course,
would your other option to be put it under the Atari name, which has weird connotations to it too?
Well, I mean, I just mentioned Chrysler, and I was like, Stellantis is the name of what Fiat Chrysler is now, right? And I'm like, you can create a whole brand new word mark. Like,
this is the problem with the car analogies for me.
Yeah,
you say things like I'm like,
no.
Yeah,
but
totally.
But it's like, that's a whole brand new car company. Like when Mercedes wanted to make a tiny little car, they made the smart car, and they made that its own brand, and they did not brand it with Mercedes, right? And I'm like, so Atari could say, we want to make a fresh new imprint that's not going to have Atari associated with it at all, and we could just do that. But I think there's this thinking, I have to assume that there is this thinking within the company that's kind of like, if what we do is our brand gives it cachet, then all of the other brands that we own that have been well known for a long time must do the same thing, and therefore we should make use of those brands. And that is better than just coming up with something new, but I don't know. I don't know if people care that, totally reliable delivery simulator or whatever it was called, delivery service. That's an Infogrames game now. Like, is that going to actually be meaningful?
I doubt it. Yeah.
I mean,
I will say, the problem.
Not.
The problem. There is the problem with the car analogy, is that an analogy is you're relating something that people don't know
to something people do know.
But if you know, I think I'm with Heather that I probably know less about cars than I do about video game companies.
Yeah. Like, I actually understand the story more without the analogy.
It's not actually helping me.
You're not wrong.
I mean,
I'm sure it's helping someone out there. There has to be other car people.
It wasn't even that accurate analogy either.
Oh no! See, I can't even tell. I can't grade the accuracy of your analogies if you do this.
The Mercedes smart car analogy is way closer to what I was trying to do than the bringing back Plymouth thing. But yeah,
but of course the part of the reason why I personally find this very funny is because of the ridiculous, convoluted. Because Atari, I can't even really just explain it because it's weird. I don't know if I understand fully myself, but Atari, a company called Atari,
yes,
has gone out of business and sold all of its IP, and then been bought by another company who then renamed itself Atari and bought back a bunch of that IP.
Yes.
At least twice.
Yes.
And the most recent version of that is Infogrames bought Atari, bought the name Atari, bought Atari's intellectual property, and then renamed themselves Atari.
Mm-hmm.
So
now they're changing themselves, and now they're releasing. They're bringing out Infogrames, which was their original name.
Yeah.
They're reinstituting that.
I feel like it's the ship of Theseus. If the ship of Theseus also went and reclaimed some of its old parts later on and put them back on the ship, like
so there was like a ship.
Some of it is true and some of it's not.
There's like a ship and then like half another ship like attached onto it.
Yeah.
Is that the ship of Theseus? Really? It's like he can't throw anything away.
Yeah. Anyway, it's very weird, and we'll see what happens. I mean, the only part of this story that I actually have, a strong opinion of is the Totally Reliable Delivery Service was a cool game, kind of fun game.
Yeah.
So I hope that they don't ruin it.
I don't know.
I mean, is it just that they own the IP? That doesn't make the game itself. Did they buy the dev team for the game? Like,
I mean, because Atari's been acquiring developers as well. But if they've acquired this game,
Because if they're just publishing the game,
Yeah,
essentially,
they have
then-
purchased it from Tiny Build,
then-
so they're basically
Oh,
just the
okay.
new publisher for the game.
I see.
all right. So that could go either way. Then at that
Yeah.
point, it's like it's one of those things of like if
The game, trademarks, and the underlying
Yeah.
property.
the it could go badly. It could be like one of those. Oh, okay, we think you need to do all these things to your game.
I think
'Cause
it's
we're the
basically
publisher
just
now, but-
they saw, maybe it is just kind of one of these kind of sort of Moneyball kind of things.
Yeah.
They look at the stats. They go, we think this game has a long tail on it.
Yeah.
Over the next 5 years, 10 years, we're going to make more money than we spent on it.
Yeah. Exactly.
And like that's all they don't care about the game at all.
Yeah.
They're just like looking at it as a investment.
Exactly.
And maybe that's fine.
I mean, in a lot of ways, I think that is a thing that a lot of publishers do. Ultimately, is they have to make that harder decision of, well, a game that already exists, is it going to add value to for us or not? And it is like, God, saying it's like the Moneyball situation where you're like trade a person to a team because you're like, I can pick them up for cheap and I know they're going to make a contribution to the bottom line of the performance of the overall team. It's like, yeah, that's that is why in the movie, and I mean in real life, people are like, man, this is going to ruin the game, right? Like, it's going to ruin the game if you start breaking everybody down to their numbers. It's like, right, but ultimately, the performance of your player is what affects the performance of the team. And when you get the little outlier moments where it's like, this guy never hits home runs and he hits a home run when you need him to, it's like, oh, that was never in the numbers. That was just a nice to have. And maybe you hope that people all of a sudden get really interested in totally reliable delivery service and they're like, oh shit, that hit a home run. Like,
Yeah.
what if you all of a sudden acquired Among Us at the right time and you pushed it the right way, and then you were the one who made all that money off of that as a publisher.
Yeah, that's like that's some really weird RNG stuff that's not going to work out most of the time.
Also, a bit of a tangent. I know we have a lot of stories to do, but I'm good at tangents. I can't seem to shed, even if I try to, I can't seem to shed
You should
the negative.
talk to cats.
Thank you. I shed all the goddamn time, Paul, in ways I wish I didn't. My face wants to leave my face. I can't shed the negative connotation of Atari.
Peach might be a snake person.
Like, I had a Coleco Gemini back in the day, played a lot of Atari games on it, right? It was fun. But I can't get rid of the fact that Atari, ever since, like, after those days, has just been, oh, it's Atari. Oh, like, I see the logo and I'm kind of like, oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the first thing I think is I'm like, I don't get excited by it. I just always feel like, oh, that sucks.
So people talk about core memories. Yeah, that's just like the most negative core memory you've got, essentially.
I guess.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, we're probably more tied into, the industry than most people, in the sense that, people who aren't really paying attention to what's going on in the industry might just be like that kind of like advertising thing where it's like, I don't remember where I heard it, but Atari's like a video game company, right?
Yeah.
They got to be good.
It's fair. It's like I've been able to shed my negative connotation towards Sega over the years. It's not like I like Sonic that much or whatever.
Is that maybe because you also are a really big proponent of Sonic's 30th anniversary?
Yes. I think it actually has more to do with the fact that because they dropped out of the hardware console thing, that they were no longer part of that console war, and it meant that, Nintendo won. And therefore I was like, I'm satisfied now.
Oh, right.
And now my country can live next to your country because we're no longer at war.
Console war
yeah,
thing.
you never actually thought that Sega put out bad stuff. You
didn't like
Oh,
them.
no, I still do.
You didn't like them because
there was
Rystar.
some bad stuff, but yeah.
Like Rystar.
No, there was some good stuff too, but there was some bad stuff, and so yeah. Regardless, that
Sonic and Knuckles with the flip lid.
Atari still has that thing with me, and I don't know if I'll ever get rid of it.
Well, speaking of things that some people have negative connotations associated with, despite the product, Fortnite.
That's okay. That's fair.
Fortnite is they're implementing this idea where there's a checkbox to eliminate confrontational emotes.
All right.
Which
they're gonna drop the teabag then.
no, teabagging is not actually an emote. Although apparently there are in some other games where like emotes are less prevalent, and so people come up with their own emotes like teabagging.
Yeah, exactly.
There actually are things where like because of what that activity, because of what is involved with that, they have to be like, you can't duck and go up whatever a certain number of times in a row, or else
So
they have to
slow it down.
The toggle from the picture we showed off in the show, what it looked like was basically turning off all, and they're labeled as confrontational emotes, or letting your friends still use them or something, so you can see your friends.
I think and
just
so
having them on, I guess.
So it's like everyone, none, or just friends.
Yeah,
it's sort of like voice chat or something.
Yeah,
right?
and there are 4 emotes currently that are basically set that way, including one that is like a L for loser
take
kind
the
of.
L. Yeah, they dance a
take
little
the
bit.
L kind of
which,
thing.
Which, from what I can gather, again, I don't play Fortnite, but from the sort of zeitgeist, that particular emote is like one of the most popular. Like there's football players have done it in for touchdown dances.
Yeah.
It's like and then like dance.
Where
taunts.
else would Fortnite have gotten their dance from?
Well, and then calling something a confrontational emote, it's like it does depend on how you come up with that. Like it's like if you were saying, "Oh, I took taunts out of this game," and it's like, okay, well, what is it for? It's just to basically make fun of the other person, it's to mock their performance, right? And it's like, okay, so a taunt, calling it that, doesn't seem as heavy a term as saying this is a confrontational emote, because it's like you're looking for a fight, you're spoiling for a fight,
But so laugh it up, which is just somebody like ha 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 ha, ha laughing.
Yeah.
So you're laughing at somebody who died or whatever.
Yeah.
Take the L, that one, and there's the 2 that are that I guess, and it's the problem with the evolving culture online. Almost anything can be become a offensive thing. So there's one that's like a whip. It's like whip crack.
Oh yeah.
Which I believe was either because both Catwoman and Indiana Jones have been characters in.
They have a whip.
And so that was like when put in, and then the other one is a like make it rain, like you go like this, except it's bananas. So it's called make it plantain.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what the name for that one was.
Oh, cool. All right. Are those racist?
Yes.
Yes.
I guess.
They're being used that way.
They're being used that way.
At the very least, is what I gather from the story. Again, I don't play Fortnite, so I don't like. No, Graham's larger point in that story was if you turn off confrontational emotes, what you end up with potentially, like if this is a problem you're trying to actually solve, what you potentially end up with is a different emote getting used instead, like when people use good game poorly in like
it's
in arena
match.
Yeah. And it's amazing no matter how you restrict people's ability to communicate to each other in a game, they will find some way to insult each other.
Yeah, so it's like when you tell kids not to use swears, we find other words that give that connotation, right? The other thing was the idea that if you turn that emote off, do you just see a person standing there not doing anything because they're emoting? So you're not seeing the emote, but you know what they're doing, right?
Which I love the idea that just sort of standing still conspicuously. And then of course that can evolve into you don't even need to do the emote.
To me, I'm just like, oh, well, I don't have to buy emotes now. I just stand at people.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. The one thing I did see a couple people bring up was, does this change hitboxes? Like,
right.
Because if you crouch and your hitbox goes down lower with you, and if that follows with the emote, I don't think any of these are necessarily like that, but if it did,
to be
for
honest,
instance, would that mean that you wouldn't be able to actually hit the person because their hitboxes would be in a different place than you can visually see?
Like, to be honest, it never really occurred to me, but like a lot of the emotes are like very active, like they're moving around a lot. It seems like that would cause problems just in general. I don't know how Fortnite deals with that.
I mean, I don't
just in general
play, so I don't really know how much of that is an issue, or if that's just a what if scenario or anything like that.
It does speak to the importance of DEI in a lot, like diversity, equality, and inclusivity. Pronouncing all three of them together is difficult. So DEI is a great way to kind of put it together, but it does speak to the importance of that kind of thing, where you are letting multiple people with multiple experiences try to pick apart things that you're putting into your creative output to be like, can this be misconstrued by people? Are we gonna attract the wrong thing? You know, you don't want to run afoul of that if you can.
It's yeah. I mean, I always remember, we had a friend who was head of Xbox policy and enforcement.
Yeah.
And they would be like the Xbox policy and enforcement team would be brought in sometimes, and according to him, not as much as they should have been.
Yes.
But brought like when a service or a game is wanting to do something, basically they have to come in, the Xbox policy team comes in and is like, this is how people are going to abuse this thing.
Yeah.
This is why you can't have nice things.
Yeah, because it's like we have looked into the heart of man and we have seen the darkest parts. And so for that to be like, I know I can help read that and turn that back to you so you know how that's going to be misapplied. You have the best intentions, give Indiana Jones a whip crack emote, absolutely. But when you've got, people are going to misconstrue it to do it in this way. And be like, really? It's like, yeah.
When you were also doing an exhibition on MLK,
it's
maybe
the chat
don't.
Saying the MLK exhibition, which also was done in some maybe not best ways.
Yeah, because
from what I hear, I don't know. I
Why?
didn't go look at it.
There's no emotes, no dancing would probably like there are no emotes that would be appropriate.
When you go into the museum, you are not allowed to emote.
And well, we talked about this like before the go to the Tyrell Museum among the dinosaurs and start dancing. I think you get kicked out of there probably.
Maybe I don't know. I think
maybe you go viral.
I think it depends on the dance you're doing.
That's fair.
Are you being distracting to other people?
Right.
Are you being lewd?
Yeah.
Maybe they kick you out for that. I don't know.
But if you're getting 5 million views on TikTok, maybe you're going to bring more people up to the museum. They're going to dance in front of some bones.
They might still kick you out.
Maybe. I don't know. It's funny because
sorry. MTV said I should go into a museum and try to teabag the art and see how that goes for me. You realize I would do that very literally, right? I'd have like a bunch of wet tea bags because I would not move in that way ever.
A lot of people have that.
Probably improve some artwork, honestly.
We can always assume the best of people involved in a creative exercise, that it's like, I want to do something that I think is going to be cool and fun and interesting, so I'm going to design these emotes, I'm going to do this stuff. Like, even getting down to, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we could let people dance the Carlton? Remember Fresh Prince, like that kind of idea?
Yeah.
And so they do it, not thinking about the fact that it's like, but you didn't invent that dance. And so you're appropriating that from someone who did invent that dance, and you're not like reimbursing them for the fact that they were the ones who did the creative output in the first place. Just even that take on it, where it's like, but I thought it'd be cool if everybody could dance the Carlton. It's like, yeah, you had your heart in the right place, my dude. You absolutely did.
Yeah, and that works.
But
on
the
a
ramifications,
small dev scale.
Yeah,
that doesn't work on a larger one where everything has to go through.
There has to be more review and stuff, right?
And stuff.
But there's those things where it's like, I'm saying that it's still down to a single dev saying, wouldn't it be cool if you could do X? And then they do, and everyone kind of gets on the same side of it, and it just kind of rolls and rolls and rolls until somebody comes along, has to come along later and say, we fucked up because we didn't realize the knock-on effects of this.
And a game like Fortnite that has so many characters.
Yeah.
You end up there could be, I think, Indiana Jones using a whip.
Mm-hmm.
Totally fine. But maybe some other characters using
the Red
a whip,
Skull
not
using
so
a whip.
much. Yeah,
he
maybe
was
not
a
so
Nazi, right? So
Anyway,
I think so. Get confused with the Marvel universe, so don't know.
So anyway, so mostly it's this idea that creating the situation where you're seeing the emote happen, but the other person isn't, I feel like could result in some very odd situations. I was really hoping, and I don't know, I was really hoping to get like a split screen video. I think would be great, of just like somebody doing the emote and then the exact same view from the other person's perspective. They're just like standing there. It's a very like almost whatever, like Rashomon style, like different interpretation of events. It's like, I don't remember that happening.
Yeah, that's true. God, but I'd hate to be that person on the other side of things, seeing somebody conspicuously standing still because you turned emotes off, and then you're like, what racist shit is this person doing to me right now?
I mean,
maybe they're just taunting you.
Yeah, maybe they're just taunting you like in a normal way, like
you
know, like,
might think that, you might not though. Like if you're just a person who plays Fortnite and you're not one of us.
Yeah.
But it's like,
you're not steeped in any of the news. You have a toggle where you're like, actually, I find those emotes really annoying.
So
yes,
you
I would like
off.
to turn them off.
But if you do find them offensive, then you might end up in a position where you're like, wait, now I think they're just thinking that at me. It depends on your state of mind.
Depends on
we
the
have
person.
a new fun game. Are they being offensive, or have they just gone AFK?
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like a fun game at all.
Oh, it's
Have they
miserable.
just left? Anyway, let's move on to causing Mario pain.
Oh, okay. We didn't want to talk about the other Fortnite story while we were in the Fortnite category.
Oh, was there another Fortnite story?
Yeah, it's about Nintendo and Fortnite and Metroid.
Oh, Samus.
Oh yeah. Let's
just because it's all related.
It's
and
all
then
Fortnite.
We can be done with Fortnite.
Good call.
If you're gonna pick anybody really that you'd be like, boy, we'd love to have this Nintendo character show up into Fortnite. Samus has her own gun. It feels like it's suitable,
But
right?
I don't think she'd get to use her own gun.
Except you pick up different guns in the course
Shit.
of it. Yeah.
I don't know how that
But
works.
so a little while ago,
Okay.
Master Chief and Kratos were added to Fortnite.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Master Chief, obviously from Halo, Kratos from the
of
God of
War.
War series, sort of the banner series for Sony and a banner series for Microsoft.
Yeah. We actually also knew that they wanted to get Metroid into Fortnite, and the other two characters from, was it the Apple v Epic stuff?
Right,
Because a bunch
right.
of stuff got leaked
Oh, I
from
see.
that.
That's how we found out. Okay.
Yeah, but this is new. This is an interview.
Yeah, so yeah, because of these court documents. But so now, thanks to an interview with former creative lead Donald Mustard, which is
Strong name.
definitely somebody from
England?
or a game of Clue.
Oh, fair, yeah. Oh, man. They probably take that shit their entire life. Yeah.
Anyway, they're saying so. The idea is, when they were bringing, I guess not necessarily. They're really promoting Fortnite as a console game.
Yeah.
On the 3 consoles, and that there would be crossplay.
Yeah.
They wanted to be like, Microsoft.
Gets a Microsoft character, and Sony gets a Sony character. So Nintendo should have a Nintendo character.
The game gets these characters.
The game will get all these characters.
Because that's the hang up within this thing.
Yeah, and Nintendo was like, that's great. It'll be awesome. We'll bring Fortnite on Switch. We'll have this wonderful exclusive character. And Samus will be in there just for people who are playing on Switch. And Epic was like, no.
Exclusive? What's this exclusive bullshit?
One of Epic's things, and to be fair to Epic, we've seen this actually throughout. Obviously they're doing it. It's not out of the goodness of their hearts that they wanted to do that. But Epic has always been quite heavily pushing for enabling crossplay and enabling features,
full feature parity among
all the things.
Yeah.
And to the extent of sort of strong arming people like Sony, who has been kind of reluctant to do crossplay and things like that.
Yeah.
And so in this case, Nintendo was like, "This will be great," and they're like, "No, it's got to be on all the system, not only on
Switch,
on
on
Xbox and PlayStation, but also PC, also mobile, all this stuff." And Nintendo was like, "Ooh, no,
Yeah, it's not something we do.
No.
Samus on a Sony console, Samus on a Microsoft console, never ever will happen."
Yeah.
Or
It's not what they want.
Yeah.
Their boundary, red line in the sand, whatever, is that they don't want their characters on other.
It's just James.
On other consoles. Epic's thing is that they want their version of Fortnite, or at least in the interview they've said they want their version of Fortnite to be the same across all versions.
And that's laudable. Like, give that to Epic to be
So-
like, we don't want to have to create cut down versions for their places.
Yeah, so really what you have is two groups that have very specific stuff, and they're not going to be able to reach compromise because of it, and therefore this won't happen.
Yeah.
yeah, so Samus was left outside outside in the rain, looking in the window.
Yeah, you'll never see Samus do the
Gritty.
take an L emote,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
whether you want to or not.
I mean, that would be interesting too if Nintendo was on board with Samus being on there. It's like, and she'll have her own emotes and she won't do all the other ones. Like, it could depend on like how serious would they have gotten if they had managed to get that far, right?
Also, I feel like Samus being able to turn into a ball would be really unbalanced.
Oh, yeah.
Like you
That would
think
be interesting
you
to
think
see,
Oddjob
yeah.
is hard to shoot at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I wouldn't ever say Nintendo will never ever allow their stuff to be on other consoles. I just say the Nintendo of today won't allow it,
and
because
go ahead.
as we've gone through in time, Nintendo has done strange collabs that they wouldn't have done 10 or 20 years ago. They're softening. It's just going to take like 100 years.
Yeah.
And Fortnite, I hope, does not last that long.
And Nintendo has a very long memory, and they do remember the CDI.
They keep trying to bury it.
Yeah, but they remember it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that I bet you if you walked into like R&D1 and like up on the wall, there's probably pictures and be like, and just with like a big red slash through and just like in Japanese, never again. Like that. I have a feeling that it's like we don't do this.
This has happened with other games though. Like we've had third-party games.
Well, Cadence of Hyrule is a great example, right?
Well, no, I was thinking of like Soul Calibur.
Oh yeah,
It has like Ganondorf in it, but only in the Switch version.
it was Link.
Right.
Was Link? I thought it was Ganondorf.
So in the Soul Calibur for GameCube was Link, but Soul Calibur for what came out on Switch then.
I thought it was Soul Calibur. I could be wrong on the game, but there's that kind of thing where it's like this version of a game that's going to be on all the consoles. If you play it on ours, we'll have this character.
Yeah.
Yeah, console exclusives for things. I feel like I don't know of any like recent game that's done it, but that's definitely something that has been done in the past. Again, Epic obviously has ulterior motives for wanting to do this, but I do kind of like this this line from Mr. Mustard.
Please.
Talking about
Colonel Mustard. Anyway, talking about
saying I wanted to create a place. I wanted to create a place that was basically like being in the backyard when you're a kid, or playing with your toys in the playroom floor. There's no one there saying, "Well, Spider-Man's allowed to do this, Batman's only allowed to do this, and Barbie can't hang out with Spider-Man." I'm like, you can create something where all of your friends can hang out, and you can express yourself however you want. And that's
Sure.
that's a laudable goal.
yeah.
But also, as a side effect, the more different skins that are in the game, they can, charge more money, and there's all sorts of reasons other reasons why Epic would want to do that, but it's still
However,
nice.
you can't go over to your buddy's house, steal their Samus toy, and bring it back to your house and say, it's okay for me to be doing this. Or tell your friend, hey, I want you to come over, but I want you to bring your Samus toy for that. And like, I'm not bringing my Samus toy over to your house to play dolls with. I'll bring my G.I. Joe instead. It's like, no, I want your Samus toy. And it's like, you can't just...
You can only play with the Samus toy if you come over to my house.
Exactly. And we play with my toys, and also you can't play with my Samus toy because it's up on a shelf. I don't want you touching it.
It's collectible.
So, yeah, it's a collectible, goddammit.
All right, let's jump on to Mario feeling pain. This is kind of a silly, these...
Sorry, it was Diablo 3 that you can play Ganondorf
Yes.
on the Switch.
Diablo 3.
Yeah,
Wow.
which we have in the office.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I knew there was one.
One of these silly questions that that game developers get asked. So this is, can Mario feel pain?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you see him. If you go into lava, he goes woo and
Exactly.
jumps and stuff.
Yeah,
So-
or in the one of the older Game Over screens, right? He pops up in front of the TV and it's like do 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 do.
yeah.
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 There you go.
So I mean, either
Count on Beach to
I
be
mean,
a good soundboard for Mario.
I feel like it starts. I mean, as Kathleen's talking about here, this is a story Nelson wrote. We do get into that interesting philosophical questions of, is he really feeling pain, or is he just, pretending that he's feeling, is he just
like the way your little brother does?
Is he just acting like he's feeling pain?
Yeah.
Because that's what you expect.
Yeah.
But as they say, as the developer says it's what's important is that the player doesn't want to have Mario feel pain because that's how you die in the game.
What the developer wants is for the player to feel pain because they want them to sympathize with the pain that Mario is feeling. They want you to have that experience of, I did a thing. They want you to be like...
They said it would be a good idea if you did.
Yeah, it's a psychic response because you're like, I am empathizing with that. And so therefore I am feeling it up here, even though it is not, I'm having a mental reaction. I'm having an empathetic reaction, and that's what's important because that means that gets people to identify with the character, and they want to that gets them to tie in tighter to the game. And I love that is the thing. It's like, Mario probably doesn't feel pain, but he makes the player feel pain, and that's what's important. It's like.
I feel like Luigi is a much more empathetic character. I mean, he's scared of ghosts. We can all identify with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I think, by and large, how when Nintendo designs their characters, maybe they're designing their characters' personalities to elicit a different type of pain from different experiences. Because Luigi feels fear, but Mario does not feel fear.
So you're saying Luigi doesn't feel pain, but he feels fear?
I think the fear response overrides his pain response. I think that he's always just scared of stuff happening.
See.
Yes, and that's why you might identify with that more because if you're more in touch with I like having the feeling of fear, then you're going to feel that more.
Now,
writing a paper on this, I'm going to get my PhD next year. So
I was going to say now the thing that really throws a wrench in the system is I was actually just looking at I was actually playing a little bit of Wario Land,
right.
And the whole mechanic of Wario Land is that Wario gets like smushed.
Yes, he does not feel pain whatsoever.
He does not feel pain. He can lit on fire, and stuff, and that's actually like mechanically how you progress in the game.
Pretty sure he's just made of rubber.
Yeah.
Kirby, on the other hand,
well, Kirby's like a baby god or something,
yes.
So he's not on our level.
He doesn't feel pain. He only feels distress. And that's a motivating factor.
But his distress is like, I have gas.
Yeah, I need to eat more.
Not.
Kirby feels no pain, only hunger.
Yeah, essentially.
All right. But let's move on to somewhere where everyone feels pain all the time.
Yes.
Warhammer 40K.
Right.
Because it's in the grim darkness of the future and there's only war. and about this sort of retcon that the Adeptus Custodes have women in their ranks.
We didn't realize they did, but apparently they always have.
Yes, which I mean,
I don't think you can tell what anybody is under all the armor.
I mean, you say
Maybe.
there's that aspect.
There are other things in Warhammer.
And as people have very very rightly pointed out, and we do in the story, lots of people talked about it before, and people talk about in the comments, is that part of, I think, to be honest, I think kind of a brilliant move on the part of Games Workshop is it's actually sort of canonical that there is no canon
right
in the Warhammer universe, in the sense that everything that we know about the Warhammer universe is written from the perspective of the people writing it.
Right.
In the universe.
Oh, this is gonna be one of those like Helldivers, everything's propaganda, so how do you know it's real kind of thing?
Not even that. It's more that they don't know things like just basically the ignorance of what's going on is so, and like communication is very difficult, and on top of that, the warp, which is allows literally anything to happen, including extensive amounts of time travel. So they can do whatever they want,
right?
And it's all it can be both. And Warhammer works on the idea that whatever they last said is what's true, unless they say something else.
Yes.
That sounds like most fandom things that I've seen.
I mean, Dune works on this same principle, though. So, and if you're going to steal from somebody, steal from the best. But they got their own god emperor. So, but it's that idea that because people are like, oh, well, the story of Dune is X. It's like the story of Dune is being related in the books by Princess Irulan of the House Carino, right? It's not. It is the story that is being written down. Not like Frank Herbert might be writing the story, obviously, right? But it's the idea of like this is the story that gets told and embellished and whatever on all these different ways. And it's like people don't really know what happened. They only know what happened after the fact because somebody wrote it down. And so in this case, you're saying the same thing, is that the people in different parts of the Warhammer 40K universe are writing the things that they know, and those are the things that are coming out in the story, the lore that gets back to us.
And a lot of things are sort of explicitly written as, letters from one general to another or something, like the stuff that's in the book. Anyway, I will say, like, to be honest, I will say I kind of liked, so just to quickly, as a lore thing, the Custodes and Space Marines are different.
Right. I don't actually know what the Adeptus Custodes do.
Okay.
Custodes, the Adeptus Custodes are basically these really, they're like the more powerful Space Marines that were previously only the personal guard of the Emperor. And then in a recent, because of recent things that have happened in the lore, they have turned them into a full chapter and have gone out to fight things.
So they're sort of they're not like, we're not using the word custodes as like a fun shorthand for custodians.
No,
well, I mean, but they are kind of the custodians of the god emperor, right?
Yeah,
they're supposed to be the personal guard.
They're basically like power creep.
Yeah,
Space Marines.
They're not janitorial custodians. They're not like they come in and clean up the mess.
I mean, this is the problem. Are there now? It's not. Are there Adeptus Custodes? Are there female Adeptus Custodes? Are there female custodians who just clean up on Terra? Presumably there are.
They have Space Marine gear, but they're dressed in maid outfits. Yeah, I've seen those actually. It's a hell of a maid cafe.
So to be honest, so as far as I know, the current thing is, so Space Marines are still men only. It's within the lore. It's part of their thing that the process that they go through.
Yeah.
requires a bunch of basically like half of their organs are taken out and replaced by other things.
Sure. Yeah.
And stuff. And I thought that was kind of a fun thing because there's also there's some all female.
The sororitas or whatever.
Chapters that are another sort of army.
Yeah.
And so I kind of thought that was like a kind of an interesting lore thing,
right?
Just to emphasize the sort of
everybody gets
bizarre,
involved,
and also sort of emphasize the sort of bizarre fantasy gothicness of the whole setting.
Yeah.
But when it comes right down to it, it doesn't really matter.
And I mean, this story specifically is like also this largely doesn't matter.
No,
I mean, it matters as much as it's being like, because it can be this way, it is that way, and it is okay to be that way.
And it's also, from what I understand, like they as they said in the guy who worked on some lore was talking about, like, originally they said there's no female space marines or there's no female custodian because because they didn't have the models. They only had done male models for
I see.
it.
Okay.
And they only have a certain number. They only want to do a certain number of molds, thing, and then they have different arms and different legs and different heads and all stuff.
All right.
And it's more expensive to do 2 sets.
Oh my God! It's the female characters. It's more expensive to do two different models. Yeah, holy
it is.
Shit,
but
it is.
Except in the case of miniatures,
right?
It's like taken to the next.
Yeah,
right. Every mold is a lot more expensive.
The tweet that references it was a tweet, I think, right? That references it says that the models are already done, so that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And from the standpoint of, there's certain times in production of things where if you think of a brand new idea for your game or whatever, you should have thought of that like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And not to say that you can't try to do those things, but there are limitations. And I've been in the office sometimes where I'm just like, no, we're not doing a new thing. We just finished this thing. You have to do that next time, right?
Yeah.
Like,
you can't have your pudding till you eat your meat.
And you kind of get it in some ways, and other ways, eh.
And of course, there is that aspect that people have also brought up that Space Marines, but custodians to an even greater extent are giant people in giant suits of armor. Yeah. Like even without their armor, they're like 9 feet tall.
Yeah.
And then with the armor,
horribly misshapen.
They're like 15 feet tall.
Yeah.
So, the idea that the person the person inside the armor, the differences between a custody person and a regular human, are vastly larger than the difference between, a man and a woman.
Yes. Yeah.
So the idea that it's like, I mean, there's no reason to say that some of the models couldn't have originally been female, and they're not like they're big because also I think that they're sterile.
They would have had to have undergone incredible body
there's no
change.
Yeah. And basically the pronouns are because this was the only thing. It was just like one of the books used a female pronoun for one of them. That's what I don't think there actually isn't a custody model yet.
It's just one thing was written in lore, a female pronoun was used, and then
feminine pronoun was used, yeah.
And then a lot of people just lost their shit because they decided, no, this can't be true, this can't be real. Please don't do this.
And then
game. It's like, calm down.
People get really weird about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, okay, because if they did want, like, it was like, we're gonna make a female sculpt of a custodian, like, what would that look like, right? Without making it like, ooh, sexy.
Yeah. Jesus.
It's
a space marine with a
belly power armor.
Yeah.
Like, why would you even do that? Given, I don't know, it's like the war
or the boob
thing.
plate
Like,
or something.
why would you?
Yeah, it wouldn't matter.
Why? Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway.
It's not like I'm about to go out and get into Warhammer all of a sudden anyway, so I just don't have to care.
But yeah, this is it's just sort of this fun idea that Games Workshop is fully not, obviously any IP holder is fully within their rights to say, whatever they want. But it is fun in the Games Workshop thing that it is also entirely possible that either there have always, within the Warhammer world, there have always been female custodians and they just were never previously mentioned.
Right.
Or it could also be possible that like there weren't previously female custodians, but then like somebody went back in time and changed things so that there have always been.
Yeah, you're right.
Or maybe half the custodian, changed gender at some point and nobody noticed.
Yeah.
So they're all frogs now.
They're all which?
They're all frogs.
It could be that. Chaos can literally do anything that you can imagine.
Well, yes, that's why I always choose Team Chaos. I don't understand why the rest of you choose Team Order.
But what's important is that because people are getting upset about it, it is very important to point out how silly it is to get upset about it. And if you are in favor of it existing, it's good to let Games Workshop know that, no, we actually like that you did this. This is cool. Don't slow down. Because the last thing you want is to lose the momentum that you're gaining in that respect too. You want to say it's like, we want it this way and we want more like this stuff, because it is, you're supposed to be holding up a mirror to the absolute darkest impulses of humanity. But men and women and non-binary folk and everybody are going to be a part of that. So why don't you have all of those people be involved in the grimdark future?
Everybody can be horribly tormented for eternity.
Absolutely.
I thought we were talking about the future. Not today.
It could get worse. It's not the worst it's ever been. Or it is the worst it's ever been, but it's also pretty good. So, yeah.
And speaking of things being bad, worse.
Again? Wait, that was your last segue, wasn't it?
Embracer. Well.
I hear they're splitting up.
Embracers, yep. The long hug is over. Embracer's splitting up.
I mean, they got rid of all of their of a bunch of stuff. That long hug's been a little over for a while.
Yeah,
it got uncomfortable.
Yeah, everyone got really awkward
on for so long.
So they are splitting up into 3 parts. Although, so there's been a bunch of news about this, obviously, because it's a big deal in the industry. There was also an interview with Lars, what's his face?
Wingafur.
Yeah, the guy who the current CEO of Embracer.
I don't say it correctly because I don't actually know how it's pronounced, but it's Wingafur.
That one where he intends to be around for like ever.
Yeah,
the next 10,000 years.
Next 25 years, I think.
25, which, given how like pandemic brain math goes, that's forever now.
I do like what Wicker Guide said, is that it is not the worst it's ever been. It's just been the most it's ever been. And I'm like, you're not wrong.
That's fair.
It is the most it's ever been.
Anyway, he was talking about that there might be a 4th
spin-off.
Well, it's like
making an MCU.
Well, it's like there's Embracer. Embracer is going to cease to exist as a company.
Yeah,
and these 3 other things out.
Nobody likes that name anymore.
There's kind of this like, it's like when it is very appropriate too, because one of the groups is Lord of the Rings and Friends.
Yeah,
so Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends,
or
Meef. But when Sauron made the rings and he gave them to the elves and the dwarves and the humans.
Yep.
But then in secret, he made a ring for himself, one ring to rule them. There's this idea. There's this concept that he sort of mentions that they may be forming like a 4th company as like a overarching
an umbrella, like Alphabet.
Yeah. There may be a secret 4th company.
Okay, so it's
in the darkness.
It's
to bind them.
Meef, Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends.
Yeah.
Terrible. I hate the fact that they add the word "in Friends."
It's such like it's
too much.
200 different video games are under the umbrella of Coffee Stain and Friends. It's like, come on.
Why didn't you just call it Puppy Cuddle Pile? Like, you should just give it a name that makes everyone think you're not evil.
Asmodee, which was a board game that
like Asmodee basically already existed.
Yeah.
And they are also end friends. Like they also own a ton of things.
Based on the comments on on the ChillPoint episode, Asmodee is not well liked.
I mean, Asmodee is sort of the embracer of the board game world in the sense that they have acquired a ton of people. Like Asmodee is kind of the 500 or 800-pound gorilla.
But they also, it sounds
in the board
like,
game world.
according to one comment, they handle distribution for like Magic the Gathering and some other stuff in some certain places of the world. And
I mean, they also own
some things have been difficult because
but
of
like
that.
they also own like Fantasy Flight. I mean, I would say probably 80% of the games that we play on AFK are probably Asmodee games somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
So they can totally shoulder all that debt.
Yeah, so this whole idea where Embracer is split off into 3 parts, but Embracer, the company, before they split off, had approximately $800 million worth of debt or something.
A totally normal amount, yeah. Okay.
I mean, for a ridiculously huge multinational corporation, that's not necessarily that bad, I guess.
That does happen, yeah.
I don't know.
And they were in the process of trying to get another $2 billion of capital when this whole thing kind of went crapper.
Yeah.
And so right before the split is going to happen,
Right.
Asmodee, so basically from what Embracer is basically is taking out a 900 million euros loan against Asmodee's intellectual or property, against Asmodee's assets.
Right.
And then, which will then pay off all Embracer's stuff. And then they're going to split up. So Middle Earth Enterprises and Friends and Coffee Stain and Friends are basically getting a clean slate coming out. And Asmodee is taking on and there's like,
because Asmodee has if you were going to do that, it's one of 2 reasons. One is you don't give a shit about Asmodee and how they do, but you get to make that decision, so you put all the debt on them. Or 2, you expect that Asmodee is going to have the most positive cash flow for the next little while. They'll be able to make that debt good.
Well, they can handle the debt.
Yeah.
Because I think...
Because that's a poison
Asmodee's
pill to any other company.
Asmodee's been around. The other 2 are new, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, the other 2 are like Coffee Stain and Middle Earth Enterprises are both existed as companies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they weren't bundled together like this. Like Middle Earth Enterprises and Coffee Stain were both companies that like it feels like basically Embracer said like board games over here, and then we'll take all our video games, divide them into 2 by some criteria that isn't totally clear.
Like the Lord of the Rings and like kind of the higher end properties went to Middle Earth. And then the more indie style games went to Coffee Stain, is what I understood.
And then they basically
double A games maybe.
They split them up, and then basically the largest entity in each of those became like Coffee Stain was a big publisher.
Their whole press release on this was, by doing this, we are allowing those groups to be more focused and be able to run better because they're not mushed together in a big pile of stuff, and putting them in, like putting all your board games with your board games.
Sure. Yeah.
Will do a thing.
It means that you concentrate on a core competency in that respect. If you're like, oh well, if all my board games belong to my board game company and that's their core competency, and they know the market, they know how to focus on that, they know how to make that perform, then you're like, your expectation is that they'll be able to actually perform in that market. But if that market doesn't have that kind of if that market is not, it's like, oh, the board game market is worth $2 billion, right? It's like, well, if you have an $800 million debt, and like, you better hope that in a year you're going to own $800 million worth of that incoming cash flow. Because if the board game market also includes Magic the Gathering and Lorcana, like Ravensburg is a part of that market, there might be a lot of other and smaller companies be part of those markets too. And it's like, they're all making a chunk of that as well. If you're hoping to win that over to your side so you can pay off your debt in a timely manner, that's like, well, you better be confident you're going to be able to do that.
I mean, the advice of we're going to split stuff off and make it really more core competency, whatever, in a bubble, that sounds like some really great advice.
Sure does.
Unfortunately, Embracer's name is really, really tied to a lot of other things.
So, yeah, so it just
feels weird.
So there's this interview with Lars Wingfield or Wingford.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
And they're asking about this thing, being like, "Hey, what's the deal with putting all this debt onto Asmodee?" He says the banks love Asmodee. They know the company has been highly leveraged on their private equity ownership for more than a decade.
Oh, no.
That amount is basically paying down the debt, not all, but most of the debt of the remaining Embracer group, meaning Coffee Stain and Friends and Middle Earth and Friends. Basically, we are in a much better position from a balance sheet perspective today. The financial market doesn't like the volatility of AAA games. I don't think AAA game companies should carry a lot of debt, if any.
Embracer Group?
Yeah. Basically, I'm a firm believer in equity. I think debt in general is quite dangerous as a tool. You should be careful not to carry too much in gaming. Board gaming, though, is different. It is a very stable business with very stable cash flows. We have taken a lot of financial risk out from Embracer and improved our balance sheet and stability by doing this.
You can say that? I don't know if that's true.
I was like, I'm not, I'm not deeply tied into, financial markets certainly, and not like, my impression of the board game industry is not that it is like super high profit margins and stable.
Yeah, because it requires a lot of manufacturing. Like way more manufacturing to make a game than it does to make a CD with your stuff on it.
If the board game, let's just pretend we understand anything. If the board game industry is stable, like they're not making because like the reason the AAA space is volatile is because there's like a lot of money and a lot of spending, right?
Right.
But if you know that you're only getting this set amount of money per month or whatever time period, then maybe you never really go outside of that. So maybe it is stable in that sense of there's not like a lot of movement.
And I'm discounting labor, which is actually I made a mistake because a board game can be designed by as little as one person. A board game can then have a group of 5 people maybe who are creating art and doing other things for it. You might even have, or you have a group of 20 or a group of 50 or whatever working on all different aspects of a board game. But ultimately it can just be one person, 3 people, 5 people who undertake the thing to make the game. They get it to a publisher. Publisher's like, this is great. We will start manufacturing this. Who's going to make the money off that? The publisher and these 5 people who made a game. Whereas if you're designing a AAA game and you have hundreds of people working on that, and that's where your investment is like.
I guess like in relation to the video game industry, even quite large board games would be considered like a AA or even lower. People aren't spending hundreds of millions of dollars on developing board games.
Yeah, they all feel a little indie in a way, right? And you might be like, I sold 50,000 copies of Dice Throne, for example. I haven't, but I mean, like, if I'd sold 50,000 copies worth of Dice Throne, and I probably take home a larger percentage of what comes in terms of sales than somebody who worked on a AAA game, somebody who worked on like NHL 2024 or whatever. They're going to go home with their salary. They're not going to go home with a cut of the millions of dollars that got made.
He makes a really good point. It's not a great idea to have a whole bunch of debt.
Yes.
If you can help that. It's weird coming from Embracer, but also phrases like the banks love blank.
Yeah.
Make me go. What? I guess you pay stuff on time, but at the same time, it sounds like they get to take a lot from you.
Well, and the fact that like when they said that Asmodee is highly leveraged with their private equity, and I just got real tight on that because I'm like, whenever you talk about leveraging something, and if you're being, I'm like, when he says highly leveraged, that always makes me feel like the bad thing is going to happen. That's like, that means that they're carrying a ton of debt has to be paid back to a private equity firm, most likely, or multiple private equity sources. And it's just like, oh, that feels, it's not equity that exists within the company. It's being injected into the company from other places. I don't know that well enough of what those sides of investment mean.
I mean, they have to have people who are accountants and whatever who's figured this out. This is, they're doing this because this provides them the biggest advantage.
Sure. Yeah.
It's, I guess the frustrating thing, from as an outside observer, when Embracer, I forget when Embracer sort of first popped up, when they bought THQ Nordic, because that was sort of the induction of Embracer. But it feels like Embracer sort of grabbed all these companies and now it's sort of, so you sort of grabbed all these companies, did a bunch of stuff, and then is like, dropping them all again.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of like worse for, like, if Asmodee had never been purchased by Embracer in the first place, they would just sort of happily been going along and doing their thing.
Absolutely.
And they wouldn't have had this huge chunk of debt lock dropped on them.
Yeah.
If all these different, like it feels like they've just sort of they've sort of not created any sort of value. They've taken up all these companies and nothing has really changed, but due to weird accounting shenanigans, somehow a bunch of money has kind of turned into debt and disappeared, and now it's going out. Like, it's.
I mean, the other thing is, so Embracer was happily buying up things until we hit that story of the $2 billion support deal thing falling through, like last minute for them. They weren't expecting, and then suddenly they were divesting stuff, right? And if they had gotten that, if that $2 billion had come through, what would have been different? Would they have still just started acquiring more stuff?
I think that's the idea.
Would we not have just hit this?
Would it given them like a little bit more of a runway to try to get some more of the stuff up?
Would this not be the situation they would have ended up in eventually anyway? Like, would that money have just taken it longer to get here?
I guess we don't know.
Or like were they hoping to actually do something with all these things they were acquiring?
There's a certain form of sociopathy that I mean, well, so I watched a great documentary by Bart Simpson called The Corporation. I got to meet him too. Bart Simpson's a very nice man.
Yep.
Got to be part of the interview and everything.
Tough childhood.
I thought so. It's very good.
Had to eat so many shorts.
The idea and established in the thesis of this is like corporations are psychopaths or they're sociopaths or whatever, but they are constructed out of people. And what I think we have seen over the years is that many CEOs turn out to be people who have that lack of empathy, that focus, that very like narcissistic focus on only themselves, or focus on my company is my extension of me, and therefore this is what I represent. And it feels like if that $2 billion had come through for Embracer Group, nobody learns a lesson from I took on too much debt, I took on too much, I'm over leveraged, or those kind of things. You think that I'm the king of the goddamn world. I am a master of finance. Look at me acquire all these companies and make my company, my Embracer Group, bigger and bigger and bigger. Aren't I the goddamn best? I am the bee's knees of corporate acquisition. People think that because they put themselves at the center of the story, and especially CEOs will put themselves at the center of a heroic story to think that this is what this means, that I am the best. And like, you're lucky.
I wonder what that feels like.
You're getting lucky the whole time, and then you rolled the dice and somebody said, I actually don't want to be part of this whole deal. And you're like, but I was the bee's knees. What does this mean?
No,
and then the next thing you know, you start.
It that way, it'd be like, but I'm the best. What do you mean? How dare?
Yeah. How dare you tell me that we're not the best? Why wouldn't you want to be a part of the big group hug? And then everything starts to fall apart. And I love this thing of like, well, they're going to start a secret fourth company that's basically going to be an umbrella that finds a way to.
What's the name of the secret fourth company? Did they give us a name?
I don't think he's really said it yet.
Is it Beef?
I don't think he said.
Biddle Earth Enterprises and Friends.
And coffee stains.
As part of Monday's announcement, Wingforce also says he intends to set up a new holding company that will help him form a ownership structure that would be a long-term and that would be a long-term supporting shareholder, enabling him to retain ownership and be a majority shareholder in all three companies.
Right, which basically is like you're not.
The
all
name
part
of
the
this
same...
new company has not been disclosed yet, but he will be leaving the Embracer name behind.
So this is like Tencent buying 10% of Epic, but instead they're buying 70% of Epic.
This is getting rid of the Embracer name so you don't have to have it anymore.
But then you become a shareholder, which means that then all of those companies have a fiduciary duty to make sure that they're giving value back to you. And it's like, that means you get to dictate, you're paying a dividend. That means money's coming into my holding company. And I don't have to be responsible for the stuff you do anymore. I don't have to oversee or be a part of it. All I need to do is just sit here and make money off of your backs.
If he's still working on that name, I hope he somehow, it's not like Embracer, but it somehow still involves hugs of some kind, but maybe it's like anti-hugging or something. Like I want something like that. I want something to make fun of.
It's got to be like Lamprey Inc. Like it's got to be something that's like, I've affixed myself to you, and you're never getting rid of me, and you're going to give me all your goods.
Limpet.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We still got a half hour left.
Let's move on to the ESA.
Oh, right. I forgot that. There's so many stories in this tech.
Yeah, there's so many stories this week. So this is talking about, people pointed out, and we said it in the story, that this is a ongoing story.
Mm-hmm.
There's, one of the shoulder graphics I put in was from 2021 where they were talking about this.
Yeah, and to be honest, chances are good this kind of thing, this topic will come up again, and maybe we'll end up doing another story on it if something relevant happens that kind of thing.
So this is talking about this idea of video game preservation, and the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, is kind of is an industry lobby group, and there's currently a thing before the
U.S. Congress.
I guess so. Talking about exceptions for in the DMCA copyright.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So there are currently carve-outs for research for books and visual media, TV and movies.
Right.
For research purposes, and so the idea is they're
a book
research,
can be in a library and you can read it and you can make a paper about it.
And you can also, but they're also, in particular, you can, there's digital ways of acquire, like you can get the book from the library as a researcher. You can get the book from the library or get a scan of the book and do research on it. So people who are, researching wherever don't have to physically go to the library.
One of the big sticking points for the ESA in this is that they don't want remote access of any kind.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw an article on ours that's mentioned this as well.
Yeah, they just did an article yesterday about it as well.
Yeah.
And this idea of wanting to add video games into this carve out in the DMCA so that researchers can do it. And, it's a very frustrating conversation because the ESA's position has been that this is, and still is, these video games represent the intellectual property of the companies.
Yes.
And any preservation is also the responsibility of the companies involved. And that's it. There's no, there's no requirement for sort of an external preservation system.
Because video games are not part of the culture. I mean, they didn't say that. That's what's being alleged here.
Yeah, and they're not currently. There's currently stuff all set up about books and movies and TV shows and
entertainment products.
And entertainment products. There's legal protections for the preservation of them, but there isn't anything for video games. And obviously, video games have additional complications in terms of how to preserve them.
Because there's obfuscated parts of a video game because you can't see the source code when you buy a video game, but I can see the source code when I buy a book.
And also, making sure they can actually be played and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, what this hearing amounted to is the lawyer for the ESA sitting there and them, the research lobby group coming with various compromise ideas. It's like, what if any research request has to be looked at and approved by a real or like a panel or a real person as opposed to an automated system.
Right.
No, not enough. Because then the
people just
we
say
don't
that it's
necessarily
fine.
We don't necessarily trust.
It's like kind of thing.
What if any research institutions have to have their their real address on file? People could just put in a fake address. So it's this thing where
it doesn't really matter what
in order to have
they say.
In order to have a negotiation, there has to be a minimum amount of
room for compromise.
Well, not even room for compromise, but a minimum amount of benefit of the doubt, or sort of a reasonable expectation that some trust in both sides.
But even some discussion, right? Because if this from
Good
improv,
faith,
if you have a person constantly giving you ideas and the other side is just saying no, you can't go anywhere with that.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's there has to be some good faith. I know I was thinking about that. Even if you're even in a situation where it is kind of a straight transactional thing, right? If you're buying something from the store, there's still a level of trust involved that the box isn't going to be empty from the store. And then the store is trusting you that you're not going to take the box and run out the door. Yeah. You're going to give them the money. There's not a lot of trust, but there's a small amount of trust
and there's
there.
some systems in place to try to
mitigate that.
And you have to both push that trust together or something.
That's why the legal system exists.
But it's if one side is okay, well, what if we do this? And the other side is, well, but you could be lying about that and not do it.
Yeah.
Then it's there's no way that we can prove to you that we're not going to do we can't, proving a negative is very difficult.
Proves to me that we didn't deliver that package to your doorstep.
Anything then what's being done here. So this is the U.S. Copyright Office that they're having this conversation with then too?
So this is the a hearing going on as part of this larger copyright discussion.
Right, because I guess if it's okay. So then it makes sense that the ESA, who is a lobbying body for not video games but for the video game industry, makes complete sense.
Publishers, I think, mostly.
And it would make complete sense that they'd be no, we are on the hard out side of things. We already know that the Internet Archive is already having a fight with Hachette about books being available on the Internet Archive, and that's been going on for over a decade. So this is not just affecting the industry here, but it's affecting there's a lot of other industries that are fighting these same things constantly. If the ESA is taking this hard position to be no, we don't see this, then it's the argument's over. Ultimately, the Video Game History Foundation or whoever it is that's arguing from the side of preservationism, they aren't going to ever get anywhere. And if the ESA is trying to put up a thing to be like, well, we're in this hearing and we want to say whatever, but the ESA, I don't think, is not the one who's setting the rules for the DMCA. They're part of this hearing because a third party, the legal setting entity, is saying we're the ones making the decision for what's going to happen with the DMCA.
Right. So I mean, ultimately, the researchers
could prevail.
They have to convince the people, but saying that this is something that should happen.
Yeah.
When the big money industry players are saying this would be very bad for us.
Yeah.
It has happened.
Yeah.
But it's a tough road.
And it's hard too, right? Because there is that sense of if you can write a law, they did, the DMCA. If you write a law that has space in the law for these specific carve-outs, and then somebody comes along and says, no, you can't have that, and we'll take you to court and we'll do whatever. So then you go to court, and then you have to have courts and appeal courts, and maybe a Supreme Court has to get involved to step through all these things as well and see, hey, so is the law wrong because it goes against previous laws, or it goes against the Constitution of the United States?
Yeah. But surely they had these types of arguments when they were making carve-outs for things like movies and books and things in the first place.
And I would assume that they did, and therefore there would be... Yeah, but I think it's because there's also an existing industry of people who do preservation in that regard, because there's libraries. Mm-hmm. And so I'm assuming that the Library Association is probably coming to the defense of the Video Game History Foundation to be like, hey, this is also part of our purview. We are professional archivists.
Yeah, I mean, the common saying is that if they tried to do it now, libraries would not get made. Yeah. That libraries are only allowed to exist because of sort of historical reasons that they got, that these days they would not have.
Yeah, it was understood at the time that culturally it's like, this is important, and now everyone's like, no, what's important is that I make $1 and you get nothing.
Yeah, and I just mean with in terms of like, they must have had these discussions and arguments with those other medias at the time. Is we've gone through. Books have been around for a very long time, right?
Yeah.
But when movies were getting made, there's all kinds of movies that just don't exist because people didn't think they were interesting or important. Film was expensive, so they melted it down and did whatever, just that kind of thing. And so there's all kinds of things that happened that will never be seen. But it feels like every form of media kind of seems to go through that thing of, oh, here's a fun new thing we're doing. It's not really important though. Oh, suddenly it's important. Well, we didn't keep blah, and what does it mean over here now?
And the hope is, and they'll probably get resolved. I guess the hope is that they're trying to get on it faster so that there isn't so much lost.
I think it's more annoying personally, because we've already seen these kinds of things happen with other media, and so it should feel like, well, no, we already know the answer to that, so please just let it happen. But you are fighting people who are afraid they won't make the most money that they can possibly make.
And video games are sort of an inherently more ephemeral medium too. The technology that makes the video game work has to be updated and all this kind of stuff, and in the case of MMOs and online things, requires constant maintenance in order to keep it going.
Is harder.
But it would
like a movie.
It would mean that then, if those things were, if there was a carve out to be like, there is a preservationist carve out in a law that in this respect to be like, no, the copyright makes exception for a preservationist carve out, then you can, as a preservationist society, you can go to those companies and be like, we want to be able to preserve this for you. We want to have it archived and whatever, which means that you can't shut your servers down until you turn over a server to our stewardship so that we can keep it up, and it will mean that we will have to gate access to it to researchers only or whatever, so they can see what's going on. And some things are also ephemeral in the sense of that they were a cultural touchstone at the time. The people playing EverQuest there's nowhere near as many people who are playing EverQuest now as there were back in the day, so there'll be a different feeling to the whole
But
exercise.
yeah, I think, and I think we're also the people who are sort of in the position to make a lot of these decisions, from a legal standpoint, are not convinced that video games have artistic
value.
merit.
Yeah, cultural importance.
Cultural importance, which is a shame.
Which is weird given Pokemon.
But let's keep in mind, but you bring up a good one,
But
right?
that's why I bring up Pokemon, because it's literally it's been around so long, it's permeated so many things. You can tell it's part of pop culture because it shows up in other things. People talk about it, they mock it, but the reference when you see it.
Yeah, we've created a zeitgeist among people of our age and then even a little bit older who are part of the Pokemon world. Like they understand it and they know what it is. And it's like my parents might not know what it is, but it doesn't matter because that part of that world never broke in on a lot of them. And that's okay because the world moves on and more people always know what Pokemon is. It'll just kind of always be like a fizzing thing out there in the ether, right? It's always just kind of going to be there until it stops being there. But Pokemon's interesting too because that's not an American product. That's a Japanese product. Mm-hmm. So the question there is, in Japan, could it be done differently? In the EU, could it be done differently? Could Canada do it differently?
Oh, in terms of like the preservation thing?
Yeah, it's like the talk of the Internet Archive, and that's being based in the United States and everything, but it's like if other countries who have other systems of law get involved to be like, no, we think this is important for this reason, the UK could be doing it differently, right?
It's a Japanese product, but it was also still sold in other areas. It's still part of the pop culture in other areas. It comes out worldwide. But that means that the Japanese product itself, if it is owned by the Pokemon Company, which if that is a Japanese company to begin with, it's like, okay, well then they might, even if the stuff is translated to English, it's like, is that something that the Japanese Diet could say, well, hey, hang on, I think that there is value in preserving our culture, and Pokemon is part of our culture. Think about how much the people in Japan talk about Doraemon is a cultural ambassador to the rest of the world. It's like most people in the rest of the world don't know what the hell Doraemon is, but they think that it's important and they want to preserve that. So
be curious to what the current state of preservation is in other countries.
Yeah, I'd love to see that step forward because the EU strikes me as the organizing body that would be very much on the side of what's important is the culture that these things were brought in, and even if the cultures are different in every little country that forms the EU, those things are important. We want to preserve them, and that's encouraging to me because it makes me think that I could see the EU saying we want to preserve all those cultural aspects because we are a plurality. We're trying to be a group of people that work together.
Anyway, moving on to also video game preservation.
It's not really moving on, though, is it?
It isn't. Moving on to the same place. Little Big Planet 3.
So
this is actually a perfect example. So Little Big Planet 3. Their servers had a problem with their servers, and that took them down in January. And then last Friday, they were like, "Yeah, we're not gonna bring the servers back. We've been looking at it. We're not bringing it back."
All right.
So unlike, say, Mario Maker or something, where Nintendo was like, we're taking this thing down in 2 years. Do whatever you want and do it, but this is going to go away.
Yeah, here's your warning.
This was unexpectedly shut down. I mean, legitimately,
because there was an issue.
It was shut down because there was the server went down in January.
I see.
Unexpectedly.
They're just not bringing it back.
And they tried to bring it back, and whatever would be required to bring it back wasn't worth it.
Fair.
And so they're not bringing it back. So there was no opportunity to
warn anyone,
or to archive some of the stuff.
Finish your business.
Already there is an archive of Little Big Planet levels that a third party thing that people have made.
Okay.
That have saved a bunch of stuff, and if you have the levels still on your PlayStation, then you can continue playing them.
How long ago did Little Big Planet 3 come out?
2014.
Whoa.
I mean, that's good.
But
10 years, yeah.
It came out in 2014, but it also updated, like you anything from Little Big Planet 1 and 2 also played in Little Big Planet 3.
Okay.
So it was a lot of stuff.
Neat.
Yeah.
This is like PS3 era.
I haven't heard of like I don't recall hearing of anything new with like the Little Big Planet property in like ages. I think 3 was the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like the servers have gone offline. They have gone offline due to technical issues, be they hardware or software.
Yeah, or possibly some sort of malicious attack or something.
Right. Yeah, I don't think they've specified.
And for them to basically recover from this doesn't make, probably, it's like the investment to put into doing this probably doesn't track. I'm sure somebody was drawing. You get the bean counters involved, right? It's like the amount of time, money we'd be spending on you guys to make this thing work again is not actually worth your time. You should be, we'll issue a notice saying we're really sorry about this. You guys need to be doing your actual work. Could be. Is there a plan to, like, is somebody saying, well, I'm going to try to make a third-party server then?
There's a place called Little Big Archive.
Okay.
Which is a third-party site that people have been using, which appears to be
available on Namecheap. You can own littlebigarchive.com right now.
Which is not bode well.
No, it does
not. Apparently that link is dead now.
All right.
Let's hope
maybe that was never the real link.
Yeah, we'll see.
Maybe they got it wrong.
Anyway, so yeah, there have been there are various opportunities, and theoretically, I guess a lot of the data is on. Theoretically, it could be like, assembled from people's saved things.
It's the BS Satellaview thing. Yes.
Yeah, but it's it's not so good. So unfortunately, that's
where that's left.
Where that's left. It'll be interesting. I mean, maybe we'll see, like the Satellaview or whatever. It would be interesting if we see some community efforts to kind of reconstruct the database or whatever. But we shall see. How long do you have to be in early access before it's not early anymore?
Well, until the point that you hit the 1.0 release, I think. So as long as you want. I've heard of some pretty long ones.
Yeah, 7 days to die, in fact.
Oh, were they only in early access for 7 days?
They have been in early access since 2013.
Oh.
Okay.
But the studio, which is, by the way, named The Fun Pimps. Oh, wait, no, it's called Studio The Fun Pimps.
Well, just for clarification.
It's very awkward.
The game is finally going to be getting its 1.0 release.
Good for them.
This release, which was previously known as Alpha 22, will be their 1.0.
Alpha 22 is technically their 1.0.
Yeah.
Doesn't even have a beta. They're just going from alpha to release. Okay.
One would maybe argue that the concept of early access has been somewhat diluted over the time.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Are they going to wipe the servers? Oh, that'd be funny.
7 days is our team's greatest passion, and the TFP will continue. I feel like they probably almost always use the acronym for the name of their company.
TFP, yeah, probably. They probably realize now, they're like, oh, this is not a good look.
And then, like, a couple of years down the road, it'll just be Studio TFP, and nobody will know what the TFP actually stood for.
Those are the bad pimps, but these are the fun pimps.
They will continue to make content. 7 days is our team's greatest passion. Team TFP will continue to make and add new features and grow this franchise because it is our favorite game too. It launched in August 2013 after a wildly successful Kickstarter campaign. And they matched all of their stretch goals.
Oh, good for them.
the team has not yet fulfilled many of their stretch goals.
Well, something to work towards.
You had
But
12
there is
years.
a roadmap.
Okay.
12 years down the line. But anyway,
So hang on.
I have sympathy. That's tough.
Wait,
Been-
this was a crowdfund?
This
Yeah.
was a crowdfund.
Wow. And the 12 years and they still didn't make to their stretch goals. They must have had some really
Their stretch
elaborate
goals,
stretch goals.
Their stretch goals might involve stuff that requires hitting the 1.0 release
That's
first.
fair. Also, how do you we didn't survive on our initial Kickstarter for 12 years.
I mean, they've been also like
doing
selling
other
it.
things.
That's why it's not really access.
Yeah,
Glad
like,
to hear it. Okay.
most games that do Kickstarters, they also still end up getting funding from other publishers because the amount of money you need for a video game is generally
Right.
not something you can just get through Kickstarter
Yeah.
for most of them. And then there's merch sales, Patreons, and other things that a lot of them will also still run,
Yeah.
especially if they're a smaller group.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people love the thing they've made.
And actually, in related, well, not that related, but somewhat related early access news.
Hades 2.
This is a thing that I didn't actually know was a thing, but Steam is adjusting their refund policy.
Oh, yeah. A bunch of people found out this way.
So apparently, Steam's refund policy up until now was that so you could refund a game within if you haven't played it for more than 2 hours, or
Within 2 weeks.
within 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
That's the standard for
Yeah.
for Steam.
So meaning that you could go absolutely ape shit on a Steam summer sale and then wake up 3 days later after the bender and realize, oh no, I spent $300 that I shouldn't have spent, and a good thing I didn't play any of these and return them.
I mean,
Yeah.
technically, yes.
Okay.
It's meant more for that, like you download a game, you play it, and you find out it doesn't work on your computer because the system settings are bad.
Fair.
Or wrong, I should say. Or you pick up that game you play and you saw a trailer and you play it and you're like, this is not what I was advertised, so this is, and I don't enjoy this, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's occasionally come up for various things,
Yeah, I've only done it once. I've only played one game that I was just really upset about after playing, that I thought the controls were really bad
let's
on.
not do this. Yeah.
Because I think,
Returned.
I'm pretty sure, I actually don't want to say this out loud now, but I'm just going to say it. I'm pretty sure we still own every single one of the watch and play games we end up buying on Steam.
Yes.
Yeah.
We make content out of that.
Yeah, so we can justify that.
Yeah.
But it would be completely within our purview to actually
There are
return
people.
them all. Jesus.
There are people who do that. There
Yeah.
are people who you'll see it on a bunch of indie games where the fear is that because you can finish the game before 2 hours, people will buy it and then refund it.
Yeah.
I think that's awful.
Yes. Especially if you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think Graham has done returns for some of them, but it has been for stuff that just doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
I don't believe we've actually returned stuff that we.
Even if it was utter dog shit.
So,
But this is a little bit different.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But the what I learned from this story is that 2 hours of play 14 days after the purchase window is 2 hours of play 14 days after the purchase window of the game's official release.
So if you had an early access game.
Up until now,
Right.
early access, playing the game during early access did not actually count. So you could basically play the game on early access as much as you want. When they did their full release, you immediately refund the game. And
I think,
and that would be okay.
I think this has also popped up because of we're getting a lot of AAA style games that are selling you early access for like 3 days before the game official launch if you buy like a deluxe edition. Okay. So some people, this what sounds like return the deluxe edition.
Right.
Because, I mean, that's the only one you could buy, and then maybe they get the standard
so
version
they
later
get to
or
get
that
on
kind
it
of thing.
early because the deluxe came out early. I understand.
Yeah, so
this has changed a bit, is what you're
So
saying.
what they're saying, they're going to be changing it so that playtime acquired during the advanced access period, for some reason that's what they're calling the early access, will now count towards the Steam refund period.
All right.
Which, so I mean, I guess the one way to look at it is that the reason why it was previously not that way is there to be a thing with like, I bought this game, and the company, promised that this is what they would be adding to it.
Right.
They haven't.
Right.
I want to get it back. Now, 2 years later.
Yes.
It's like I've been waiting for this game to be fixed.
The royal guarantee.
2 years later, it hasn't been.
Yeah.
I want my money back.
Yeah.
And so I guess you can't do that anymore.
But better, and I think in a way, it's like it is better to approach it from. It's like, well, if you want to play the game in early access, and you come to it, and you're like, okay, so I played the game for an hour and a half, and I've decided that it's like the thing that I expected it to do right now, based on what they're promising it to do in the future, I thought was actually available right now. I thought that certain aspects of the game were available right now, and they're not, so I'm going to return it. And then maybe in a month or two or in a year or two, you come back and be like, I wonder if they added it. So you buy the game in early access again, and you play it for another hour and a half. Like, they still haven't done the thing I want them to do. I'll return this game.
I don't
it's like
know
that
if
could
you
happen.
can do that or not.
I have to assume that
If it's been a couple years, maybe it won't matter. But I don't know if I feel like if you're show, because it's not. It still goes through a system and has to get approved before the return. So
right.
if there's a thing where you were
you keep
buying the
this
game, playing it, and then returning it, hours are cumulative on Steam. That's true.
Okay.
So I don't really think you'd be able to do it that way.
Interesting.
So that
is gonna chill people from buying early access, I think, a little bit then too.
It might.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
It depends on whether, like, if that sort of buying early access, not being satisfied, and returning it was a big deal before.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not particularly hot on the AAA buy the deluxe version, get this game 3 days before everybody else tactic.
Like, to me, that's like not early access. That's just, well, I mean, that is early access, but it's not
That's how they are using
it's not
it.
early
and
access.
I'm not really partial to that way of it. Most games I play don't work that way currently, and I hope they don't. But the idea of I know a number of people I've seen online get really into playing an early access game, right? Like Hades 2 is an early access. People want to get in there, they want to play. That's a game that they'll probably still want to play when it
goes 1.0
officially releases.
RTMs.
I find a lot of the time if I play a game early access, I have no interest in it later. I prefer to wait until they're done personally.
Yeah, me
but
too.
Yeah, I find
I get the hype for it. I get the excitement of wanting to get in there and see the changes and stuff. It's
Learn
just
the
not,
meta.
Yeah, I do find it frustrating when games come out in early access that I'm really excited about because I don't want to play them. Like if I was
the only thing holding you back is your willpower. Yeah.
Like if I was very excited about 7 days to die, I would have been waiting for like 13 years.
Yeah. How is Silk Song?
But
one day this will come out. I have this cool sticker. She's gonna be great.
She is.
But yeah, I mean, you can get into situations like, one of my favorite games is Subnautica, which was an extensively early access game. From what I understand from comments I've read, the entire plot of the game changed several times.
Really? Oh,
and
wow.
big mechanics changed and all this kind of stuff, right? And to be honest, I don't think I would have enjoyed it the same way if I had had to experience it in little increments, being like, hey, now we added a new fish. Look at it.
When I was doing I think Beej's backlog, Corey came on one time and she knows I like swimming, being in water, that kind of thing. So she's like, we're gonna play Subnautica, and I'm like, I heard about this, and it's just basically what it was mostly like, there's no story. You just kind of start, and then you're like doing things and building stuff. And I'm like, I want to build stuff underwater. She's like, well, I can't really do that without a lot of materials. So we'll do some things here. We'll do this. We'll do that. And then get attacked by a giant goddamn eel. And it's like, this sucks, because it's so scary. But there was no sort of narration and story and everything else. So when I got the copy at 1.0 years later, because we're talking Beach's Backlog versus like a couple years ago, I was like, oh, this is a very different game. But I guess what I was playing was the early betas, right? Just when it's like we're just working on a sandbox more than anything else.
And so like it's annoying because like for instance Hades 2.
Yeah.
I see people getting hyped about Hades 2, and I'm like, oh man, I want to. Oh, well, I'm not actually going to get to play it for 2 years.
My harder thing with Hades 2, because I don't mind Hades 2 being in early access, because I know they're using that as a way to try to like refine that, and my understanding is that's why Hades is as good as it is, and because they have that player feedback, and I'm fine with that. I don't want to be involved in that, but I'm fine with it.
Sure.
But my issue is now I have to dodge spoilers.
Yeah, you've got to
That's actually my harder thing.
Yeah, it's like what if, I just saw
and I've seen some of the character artwork without really meaning to.
I've just been watching I just watched the Fallout series on Amazon.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very good. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I want to check that out.
But like, and it's a really, really great series and tells a wonderful tells a really nice story that is both has potential for future seasons, which I think have already been approved.
Yeah.
But it also does answer, is a nicely contained piece as well. And it's great. The idea, it's like, would you want to, it's like, okay, so first, a year ago, you got to read bits of the script. And then you got to watch bits of it without the special effects. Everyone was just walking on green screens and doing the stuff,
right? And
then watch it again, with extra stuff put in, or they hadn't actually got, there'd be just a text panel for what's going to happen right in this place.
Then a Deathclaw runs in.
Yeah, and it's like, would you want to view a TV series like that? And that's sort of how I view early access video games.
That's how our chat wants to view the work that we do.
I mean, I usually
so let's be honest.
I like to do that stuff in the reverse order. I like to see the finished product of a TV series, and then if they have behind the scenes, or or maybe they have that initial run through, that might be fun to watch and see how that works. I want to watch this stuff after, because I like my first run through to kind of be just I'm gonna let it wash over me, do whatever. I prefer second run to be okay. Let's critically look at things and try and find Easter eggs and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that being said, we will be doing the crapshoot sometime pretty soon.
We will.
Yeah.
There will be a crapshoot upcoming.
Are you excited for Endless Ocean? They're making another one.
Yeah.
I know you thought the first one was neat.
So conceptually, well, the Endless Oceans, because those are the ones that came out on Wii, right? But it's there were ones going back before that I never played.
Well, the Wii's ones are ports of the older ones, is my understanding.
I think so, yeah. The new one that's coming out, I'm interested in it. I think what I want is I want Subnautica without the scare, right? I want to build bases underwater. I want to collect stuff that leads to learning more things, kind of that exercise of I found some more recipes. I can do more things, because that's kind of how I played Subnautica anyway. And I think that's what I really want is that, but I'd love it to be on Earth. As opposed to scary monster with psychic abilities. It's no, just give me a goddamn shark. That's scary enough.
I was going to say, there's lots of scary things in our ocean.
Yes.
I don't think that's going to make it less scary.
Teleport you into different places? No, you don't need to do that.
What's that underwater game? Alba?
No, Alba's not underwater. No, that takes place on an island.
Oh yeah, the diving, yeah.
Yeah, there's a it starts with an A, I think.
Yeah, there's no base building in that though. You're just
Abzu.
Yeah, you're just sort of flying around.
Yeah, it's more about just being underwater. Yeah, there's no base building. That's true.
It's like a walking simulator but underwater.
Soma is underwater.
I know. It's technically you're right.
It's definitely the opposite of what you want.
It's an underwater game that you would like, Soma. No,
pretty sure it doesn't have any base building in it, from what I remember. Just some existential dread.
I mean, there's and
a monster.
Base building games are pretty common these days, so maybe there's another one that will tickle your fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Endless Ocean would have that. I know it's supposed to have mythical sea creatures, not alien ones, but the ones that we think did exist or whatever. And like how Animal Crossing has like a few that you pull up that are like giant eels and things that did exist, but as far as we know, don't exist now.
The fact that you can catch a coelacanth is really cool. That's just really neat. Do a little more of that. That'd be fun.
Sorry, what were you going to say, Paul?
We were talking about Endless Ocean.
I was going to say that was the last thing I wanted to talk about.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm glad we got in before that.
Thanks everybody for joining us. And if you haven't seen the episode of ChillPoint that we were talking about, you should probably go do that. You'll find out a lot about a lot of these stories in a more compact and funny way.
Also, if you watch all the way to the end, there's a little outtake clip of Graham and Kathleen doing Wisdom Dog. It's very short, but I left it in there just for you.
So yeah, we will talk to all y'all later.
Back that Patreon.
Do that thing.